All right, everybody. Welcome to Michael Maher Live. This is a show where we bring on people just to help brands, to encourage them to figure out how to stay current and relevant in a very fast paced and changing world. It seems like things just continue to amplify over time, including as we add things like generative AI into the mix. It continues to make things more complex. And so we need even more help. Today on the show, I have Jay Lagarde. He is the CEO and founder of Ecom Engine. Welcome to the show, Jay. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Awesome. Michael, thank you very much. So we've been in the Amazon game since 2006, 2007. We've been doing this a long time. We started out with Feedback 5, and we really started out doing more custom work for sellers, automating their catalogs and posting and managing their inventory. But then we morphed into what they call SaaS company,
Okay.
with Feedback 5, with Restock Pro, with some other tools like that we've been helping Amazon sellers to be successful and to help the Amazon marketplace to grow and thrive, and help our sellers to be strategic and to operationalize their business effectively. So that's been our mission. We used to say and still do, big company tools for small sellers. But we have large sellers, very large sellers, and small sellers. We support a lot of different people in the marketplace. So
I think one of the things that people say most about Amazon is it's always changing. And I think that's probably a little bit of hyperbole. Like it's not always changing. And at the same time, there are constantly new evolutions to how Amazon handles things on the back end that impact the front end, how they run events. Like Prime Day used to be one day, now it's 4 days, and it's happening right now. It's going on right now. Everyone's probably loading up their carts. I know I'm looking for things that are inside of my cart that are on a deal that I've been waiting and anticipating for this week. So things are constantly evolving and changing. How are you all keeping pace with that? And is that difficult to handle?
well, it's part of our challenge, but it's also part of our mission, to be able to take that noise, and it's a constant, right? Amazon is always changing, so the change is a constant in a sense, and if things
Sure.
aren't changing, that would be a change. And really, it's to take that noise of the market and the excitement of the market, really, and to bring our sellers the signal. What are the key things that are going to help them to be successful, to keep them focused on what's successful? I mean, I personally am an entrepreneur, and I've sold in the past, and I love the opportunity. I love chasing after the new idea and seeing if it works. But I also know, from working with many sellers over many years, is that it's easy to miss the forest for the trees,
Sure.
and so while you're chasing after some new idea or new thing, you're forgetting some of the core day to day stuff, or you're letting it lapse a little bit, and that's really, more than ever. It's critical that you stay focused on core things like profitability and what we call profit engine. Your profit engine is every SKU is a profit engine, and you need to be relentlessly focused on that in a strategic way, to make sure that you don't lose what's working. 10 or 15 years ago, a brand could pop up if you hit it right.
You could
You
just
just need
crush it right away.
it was a lot. It was, I say, easier. It wasn't easy, but it was a different world.
Sure.
You could, the data was simpler, the changes were simpler, and you could feel really good that you were making money, and that you had a good path forward. Yeah, of course, people got disrupted, but the disruptions, and what we call profit leaks that can happen, are more extensive than they were today. And that's
There's
just
just a
part of the
lot
game.
less levers to pull. Back then, I started selling before I ever started running my agency a decade ago now, and now been 16 years in the e-commerce game. And when I was selling, it was like you get a product up. There wasn't even a such thing as private label brand. It was just get a product up. Maybe you put a quote unquote brand name on it, but that was even before that was a big push. And then down the road, brands have become or felt more legitimized. Amazon has become more legitimized for these big brands, even big publicly traded companies that are really leaning into Amazon. But it was a lot of smaller sellers, and then a couple of people that had retail partnerships with Amazon on the 1P side. that were selling back in the day. But it was like you said, you get a product, maybe you run a big promotion, you get it to rank high in search results. You felt like you were winning. There was no ad lever. There was a lot less data. I mean, it was a lot less. It was still complex from a how is this working standpoint, and you had to figure it out. But there were just way less levers to pull.
Yeah, there were less levers to pull, and it's a fun game. It still is a fun
Sure.
game. And so you're right. There were less levers to pull. There was still strategy. There was still getting yourself in the right place at the right time. But the flip side of that is that there's more levers, but Amazon is working with more levers as well. They're tweaking more things.
Yeah.
They're changing different types of policies. They're adding new fulfillment programs. They're adjusting little micro adjustments on little fees because they're changing your incentives. And there are also, new programs that come out that are tested. Every time something like that happens, it has a potential effect on your bottom line.
Right.
And sometimes it's broad across all of your SKUs or some of your SKUs. Sometimes it can be very micro. Sometimes it's at a very, a child SKU level that a change can happen. If all of a sudden you're in good stock with one child SKU, but your other child SKU is very low stock, you can get a new fee now just for that. um,
Yeah.
and those are things that can be very challenging without the right tooling in place, very challenging to keep track of because while you're focused on while you're looking at new things, you're looking at these new opportunities, you're looking at these new levers, you need to not forget the core things that have been working in the past. And you need to have a way to do that, to kind of delegate it to your organization, so that the head of the company can be out there looking at new things, thinking about opportunities, but you've got to have that core working. And we feel, that's one of our missions. A core mission is to help people to operationalize their business. A tool is part of it. You have to have the right tooling,
Sure.
but you also have to have the right people structure, and you have to have the right accountability framework, and you have to have the right habits in your business. If you lose those habits, then you can sometimes lose the profitability, and that's the disruptive danger for brands, because we want people to be long term, and we want them to think long term.
Yeah.
You want to own a business, you want to make this long term, you want to keep your employees hired long term. Think like a business, operationalize it like a business. And that to me is a fundamental differentiator of brands that, you know, have a flash in the pan and they do something really cool, and
Right.
but do they last? The
I
brands
mean,
that last,
you said that brands. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say you said that Amazon's always changing, but I think
all
you hit on something which is also true, and I say a lot is the basics of Amazon are still the same.
they always are the same. Yeah.
So Amazon is constantly changing and evolving, which I think is good. It should be evolving, and at the same time, the basics are still the same. You need to have a great looking PDP so that people want to convert. You have to send traffic to that, however you're doing that, and then you optimize over time. And one of those optimization pieces has to be, am I profitable? And you talk about looking into the future, looking at things from a long-term perspective, or as we like to say, play the long game. So if you're playing the long game, that often means that you're sacrificing things in the short term so that you can see success in the long term. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't think about that. They think I need to get to profitability right away, but that actually can hurt you. Whereas long term, you've of course need to be profitable if you want to stick around.
Yeah, it's not how much profit you make in a week or a month. I mean, of course, that is important. You need
Sure.
cash flow, but it's really keeping that longer horizon in place, and that sometimes requires investments in habits, in infrastructure, and I don't mean huge monetary investments. It's just a matter of building your business in a way that is going to be sustainable long term, and that's something that people miss. Even, we've all seen brands that have been very successful and then have gone into declines, and because there are disruptions that happen, and it's just knowing those disruptions are going to happen, knowing they can be subtle, knowing that you can have advanced warning, but you're not paying attention perfectly to what's going on,
Yeah.
and being able to keep tabs on those things. And we view every SKU as kind of like we call it a profit engine, but you can also think of it like a factory of starting at the very beginning when you create a product, you source it, you've got all of the nuance around sourcing and packaging and cost structures around that, and then all the way through, marketing, and all the way through to the end when you're actually getting paid. You've got returns, you've got shipping costs,
Yeah.
handling costs. It's all kinds of aspects in this profit engine that every SKU has, and it's important that we feel like, well, you need to monitor what's going on. Every little piece of that profit engine needs to be monitored. Is it working? And your point is that, yeah, there are new things that can go wrong that couldn't go wrong in the past, or new
Right.
things that can go off, but you've got to watch it. But the core things, like, you've got to make money, and the finance metrics that we know are always the case, and the core SEO metrics, those aren't changing. They're always going to be the same.
So
Yeah.
Jay, you mentioned habits a couple times. One of the things I like to do when talking with a brand, or helping a brand, especially in these formats of these shows, is like, let's give people something practical that they can do and that they can implement right now in their business. And I think if someone maybe doesn't believe that myself or yourself are knowledgeable in what we're doing, they could actually go and implement something that we give them, some kind of information, guidance, advice, and then realize, oh, this does actually work. And then there's typically two paths. Either they're like, okay, I'm more successful, and they keep on going, or they're like, hey, I'm more successful, but also, man, I need a lot more help. And there's a lot of things like this that I need help with. Then they're going to reach out to someone like myself or yourself. But giving them that practical information or guidance helps them to get started. So, what's one habit that any brand right now, regardless of their size, could implement that maybe they're not doing, that would help them to be more successful and to be thinking long term, or playing the long game?
The one habit, and it sounds obvious and simple, but you'd be surprised
Bring
how
it.
many people can do it. Number one, every week, every 3 days, whatever it is, you need to you need to look at every SKU and say, how is it performing? And you need to make sure that it's not leaking profit out of your business. And is it making money? You need to look at it. You need to have it on the calendar or in your system. It always needs to be looked at. Am I making money on this SKU? Now, sometimes you're not making money for a reason, because you're looking to
Right.
surface a SKU. I understand that's understandable, but you have to have a habit, and it has to be cadenced habit, and you need to look at it all the time, even though you feel like it's boring. You got to do it. It's
I think
important.
what you're saying, what one will require a tool, and it sounds like you guys have something like that to help people to look at things from a SKU level, from a even child ASIN level. And I think a lot of people are probably not looking at different ASINs, or different SKUs, and determining which ones are performing the best. And I think even when you get down to that level, you also have to look across things in maybe a little bit different perspective. So a lot of brands, when we work with them, they might have, 5 variations on a listing. And we might be taking one of those child ASINs and driving traffic to it. Well, if you look at that child ASIN and you don't look at it in comparison to any of the other item, like other ASINs that are on that parent-child relationship, it might look like it's unprofitable because it's getting all the spend attributed to it. But when you look across the parent ASIN, you see all these halo sales that come because maybe someone's getting driven to a listing with a single pack, but they're going and buying a 3 pack. So we always have to retrain brands, in essence, to look at what is the parent level profitability. Like, yes, of course we want every SKU to be profitable, but what is the parent level profitability? Because we're not sending traffic to these other 4 items, we're just sending it through one. That's really where your true profitability is coming into those, in the parent child relationship.
All the time, and this is the problem of attribution in marketing.
Yeah,
And how do you know? And that ultimately, can AI help with that? A little bit, but at the end of the day, you need to have human judgment about something like that. And you're
sure.
exactly right. That requires judgment, and there's no question about it. You Sometimes you can spend the money on ads for one of the child SKUs, but there's a halo effect, as you said, on the other SKUs. No question about it.
We also look at marketing, or advertising, really, because marketing is pretty expansive, but advertising specifically, looking at the impact that it has on total sales, not just on ads. Because I'll audit a brand, they'll say, man, I've got a great ROAS, 4 to 1, a 5 to 1 ROAS. And I'm like, okay. let's dig deeper. Well, all of your terms are branded, or most of them are branded. Of course, you have a good return on ad spend, but also look at what the market's doing. The market's growing, and you're actually declining year over year. Why is that? Because you're not trying to rank on anything organically. You're focused on ROAS and you're not actually looking at the impact that ad spend has on your total sales. So you could have a really bad ROAS, but actually have great tacos and be in a really, really good position because the terms that you're going after are just super competitive. And that's the nature of the category that you're in. I think a lot of people don't think about that. So they think, I need to have a good return on ad spend. But what are you ultimately after? Are you trying to have great vanity metrics for your internal reporting? Or are you trying to gain market share and ultimately be profitable long term? Those are the things that I think are feel maybe more obvious now, but are just not that way because we get so focused on attribution.
Yeah, there's no question that that requires judgment and savvy and experience. And the brand is uber important because I love the way you say it, halo effects.
Yeah.
Um, and brands collect halo effects. And that's something you need to watch out for. It's an opportunity, but of course, it's also a risk. If you have a bad apple in the brand, it can sometimes have a negative halo effect, if you will.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. One
and
thing
all
gets a
those
bad
things need to be
review.
watched.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
compounds for sure. And so just I think
Yeah.
to your point, the best and most practical thing that brands can do is just be sure to continually and constantly look at things at an ASIN level. Don't just look at, what is our, growth year over year, but what are the drivers of that growth? And are we taking care of each one of those, child ASINs or child SKUs? Are we taking care of the parent? But like looking at things at that level to really understand what is actually causing you to grow and not just looking at it from a total perspective because only look at total. When the total comes crashing down, where are you going to go? You're going to start going down to the ASIN level. If you were doing that in the first place, you'd have a lot more understanding like, okay, this item's on decline, or man, when this item is out of stock, it really impacts our tacos and brings down our total sales because it has a lot of organic visibility. So I think that's the
Yeah.
probably the most practical thing that people could do. And I absolutely love that advice. Jay, if people want to know more about what you're doing and what you're up to, where can they go and find you?
Yeah, come to Ecom Engine. We've got, I think a useful website with lots of, data that people can use. And of course, I'm reachable on LinkedIn. Our staff is reachable, and we love talking to sellers. And yeah, really enjoyed this conversation, and hope it's of some use. We don't always have the funnest story to say, go out and have fun and do this. Look at this new thing.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of like, you got to get your spreadsheet out and you got to look at it, and you got to look at it on a regular cadence and make sure that you're not missing something.
I think the people
That's
that are ultimately successful have gotten really good at two things. They have gotten good at hitting the same nail on the head over and over and over and over and getting really good at that instead of chasing the new thing and just being okay at that. And then there's
that's
something
where
that
the winner
my
comes from.
yeah, what's that?
You got to have both, but yes, you got to do that core thing. That's
And
exactly
then
right.
something that my church says that I think they took it from like the Marines or somewhere was embrace the suck. Like there's going to be sucky things that you have to do. Just embrace that. Like life is not perfect. You're going to experience pain. Be okay with that.
That's awesome. That's exactly right. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Listen,
we
it's
appreciate.
great talking.
Yeah, it was great talking with you too. We appreciate you being here. If you guys want to know more about what Jay is up to and Engine are up to, you can go to ecomengine.com or find him on LinkedIn. But that's all we got for you today, people. Until next time.
All right. Thank you.